Hey, hi, how you doing? I'm Darian the Eclectic. Welcome back. And today I want to talk about writing tips. I am an author. I am in a Master's of Fine Arts program for writing popular fiction and genre fiction. I have been writing my whole life since I could pick up a pen, pencil, computer, keyboard, and I've learned a lot. I've come up with my own process. And so in today's video, I want to talk to you about how I construct a particular scene in a book. And I use this checklist that I'm going to share with you for every single scene in my book. And the reason I do that is because there are certain elements for a scene to be appealing to a reader and to include all the necessary information that makes the scene complete, in my opinion, and keeps the reader turning pages and reading scene after scene. And if you have every single scene in a book complete and the reader devouring every single scene, then you have a complete book and a satisfying book. My son's awake. Can you hear him? So in this video, this is going to be part one. I'm going to go over the first 5 of 10 points that I go over in every single scene. Some of them might seem a little basic, but there are also things that are easy to forget. And other things maybe you haven't heard before, maybe you have. My knowledge comes from several sources. I've combined a lot of different methods and techniques to create something that works for me. I use Save the Cat and StoryGrid. I listen to Writing Popular Fiction with Savannah Gilbo, the podcast. And I've taken a lot of tips from the Writing Excuses podcast and specifically Brandon Sanderson's techniques. So if any of those things appeal to you, if you want to know more about any of those things and want me to explain and dive deep into how to use them, let me know in the comments below. But today is kind of a culmination of what I've learned in using all of those techniques to come up with this scenes checklist. You'll notice I look down a little bit. It's because I'm looking at my phone so that I don't miss anything. Some of these checklist items are pretty detailed. So, number 1, where and when is the scene taking place? Again, this might sound a little bit basic, but a lot of people forget to put this in each and every scene. And you do need to set the stage in each and every scene. You need to let me know where I am, either in the world, in the kingdom, in the galaxy, specifically, maybe even a room, maybe even a place in that room. You need to paint the picture for the reader so that they can put themselves in the place of the protagonist or in the story and sit in that chair, in that room, in that kingdom, on that planet, in that galaxy. And then time is also important, not just what year is it or what era, but also what time of day, maybe even what time specifically, if that applies. And if this time is in relation to something else, if you do time jumps, for example, it is incredibly important to set your reader firmly grounded in exactly where and when they are. So that's number 1. Where and when are we in the scene? Number 2, what is the protagonist thinking and feeling? Now, these are 2 very different things. For example, your protagonist is walking across the street. They see on the other side of the street is a coffee shop and they want to get a coffee on their way to work. What your protagonist is thinking might be, I need to look left and right as I cross the street. Where's the crosswalk? I have 15 minutes to get this coffee and get to work. Do I have time? What kind of coffee do I want? Do I want to stick with my same old, or do I want to try something new? Is the coffee shop crowded? Are they an introvert? Is that going to bother them? Are they an extrovert? Is that going to, make them happy? They could be thinking a lot of different things, but what your character is feeling is very different. And it can depend on some subtext and some backstory within your particular scene. For example, if in the scene before they broke up with their significant other and they used to meet that person at this coffee shop every morning before work, 1, they could be thinking about the details of that, but 2, what are they feeling? They might be feeling like they should not go to that coffee shop. They might be feeling anticipation, anxiety, heartbreak, and that might manifest in a few different ways in them physically. If they're feeling anxious, did they break out in a sweat? Are they trembling a little bit? If they're feeling heartbroken, are their eyes welling up? Or are they angry? And is that, resulting in a clenched fist or them speed walking past the coffee shop and trying to distract themselves with something else. Thinking might put the character in the present moment and toward the goal they have right now, but feeling is going to distract them from those thoughts. It's going to encompass something bigger or maybe even something completely different from what they're thinking, so that the reader has to grasp the subtext of what's going on. So that was number 2. What is the character thinking and feeling? Number 3, what does this character want and why? So this is the goal. And the goal can change as you move through the scene, as you move through the story. And in fact, it often does change if this is the protagonist. So, for example, if this person is headed toward the coffee shop, their goal might be to get that coffee for themselves, but it might also be to get the coffee for themselves. And then maybe they think there's a promotion coming up. I should get the coffee for my boss as well. So the goal might be get the coffee for themselves. And then when they get into the shop, the goal changes. When they think and feel something different and they decide I should get one for my boss as well, that will help my chances in getting a promotion. And just to go a little bit deeper, this why might be something that is, again, has some subtext, and subtext makes a story really juicy and really interesting. So it is something to think about as you write, but don't get distracted. Get that first draft down. You can always add subtext in after the fact. But say this person went to the coffee shop with the goal of 1, to get themselves a coffee. Then they thought the promotions are coming up. I should get one for my boss. Why? Because I want to get a promotion. Why do I want to get a promotion? Because I have bills to pay, and maybe there's stress in making the mortgage payments. Or maybe they've got a baby on the way and they need to make that money. Or maybe they want that promotion because it comes with other benefits. They want to travel and it's going to send them somewhere else. And they need the freedom to get out of that hometown because they're just so sick of being stuck in that tiny hometown. These are all different things that need to be included to help give your character dimension and layers that make them come to life, that make them feel real to the reader. Number 4, what is at stake if the character succeeds, and what is at stake if they fail? Now, these are 2 different things. Again, if the character succeeds, something good and something bad might happen. In fact, you should be thinking about that. And those are choices that we're going to talk about a little later in the checklist that you should include also. And what's at stake if they fail? Something bad, probably, but also maybe something good. This can relate back to the change in the protagonist's goal. So let's change our example. Let's talk about a team that wants to do a heist on a casino. Wonder where I got that from. If you know the movie, put it down below. And they have a lot at stake. So maybe the main character, his goal is to do one last heist, one last big payout so that he never has to do another heist again, because he wants to create a life that is legit, for example. Okay, that's the goal. Why? Well, his ex-wife is someone he still loves, and she left him while he was in jail from the last one. Name that movie. And so he wants to win her back. And in order to win her back, he needs to go legit. And in order to go legit, he believes he needs to do one last payout so that he never has to worry about money again. And that way he's got safety and security for her and family. Now, what is at stake? And what happens if they succeed and fail? So what is at stake if he succeeds? Well, if he succeeds, he gets all that money. And he, in his mind, he gets the girl and his life goes on smoothly. But what if something happens in the process of that heist that puts his team in danger? And now he's got a choice to make. Does he continue on with his plan, try to get the money, try to get back the girl, and sacrifice his team? Or does he abandon his goal of getting the money, getting the girl, in order to save his team? So, what's at stake if he succeeds and fails? If he succeeds, he might lose his team, but gain the money and the girl. If he fails, he might lose the money and the girl, but save his team. So it's very important to make the stakes clear within the scene so that your reader feels that tension, feels that anxiety of, regardless of what happens, something good and something bad is going to happen here. And that just creates a scene where the reader is going to keep reading because they are so anxious to know what happens. They've got to find out. And then they've got to find out how the protagonist is going to deal with that new situation. So that's number 4. What is at stake if the protagonist succeeds? And what is at stake if they fail? Number 5, the inciting incident that gets in the way of the protagonist pursuing their goal. Now, you may have heard inciting incident from a general full book fiction outline technique. It is the thing that kicks off the story, but you also need inciting incidents in each of your scenes. And the inciting incident is what changes the scene. So in this particular scene, if the protagonist is trying to go about his heist and something goes wrong that puts his team in danger, that might be the inciting incident of that scene. That is the thing that gets in the way of his goal of getting the money and getting the girl. Now he's got to pivot. Now he's got to change his tactic in order to figure out a way to save his team. And most likely the protagonist is going to try to find a way to get everything he wants, right? To get the money, get the girl, and save his team. But a good book does not allow the protagonist to get everything they want. It forces the protagonist, the character, to make a choice and sacrifice something. So this inciting incident is what kicks off the scene and changes things, gets in the way of the protagonist's goal so that they have to pivot and make a choice, make a decision, change the thing they're doing. So that was number 5, an inciting incident that gets in the way of the protagonist's goal and forces them to change tactic. Now I'm going to stop there because that's halfway through the checklist and I don't want this video to be too long. If you enjoyed this, if you want me to continue on with part 2, please let me know in the comments below and I will get that out as soon as I possibly can. The next item on the checklist does come from Brandon Sanderson and it includes progressive complications. So this is where it starts to get really juicy in the checklist, really interesting for your writing. The reason I really like to use this checklist is because it creates a framework for me. And for some people, that framework might feel limiting, but for me, having too many options is overwhelming and stops me from being creative. So if I can create my own framework to work within, then I can be more freely creative with the choices available to me. And it also gives me a direction on what has worked before for people. Again, I have aggregated all this information from different authors, successful authors from different outlining techniques, to see what works so that I can try to do something that works as well. And so if I feel confident in the direction I'm going and I have structure and framework that provides me something to work within, I am much faster with my writing. I feel more creative with my writing. I enjoy it more. So if you're that kind of person and you really like this type of framework, please let me know. I really do want to create that next video because the next 5 points make it really interesting for the reader in a particular scene. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to share the rest of them with you. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this. Make sure you like and subscribe and then hit that bell so that you can be notified every time I release a new video. Thank you again for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.